Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Let's Not Meet. I'm your guide Q. These are all real encounters people have had with, let's call them undesirable individuals. Just a small announcement, I am intending to make a no sleep video on my second channel by the end of the month because it is October. If you don't see me post that or you don't hear me talk about it, be sure to pester me in the comments because I really do want to put that out. With that said, let's get into the stories. First story. So, a little background here. My father was in the army for 21 years, retired, and moved to a very small town in central Florida. He got bored after a couple of years, and even though we didn't need the money between his retirement and what my mom was making as a bookkeeper / tax prep, he wanted to go back to work. He started working at various gas stations, and it being a small town, the owners wouldn't care if I came there and helped him out with stocking the coolers, or even running the register as long as I didn't sell any beer or smokes. This all took place in the late 80s and early 90s. The actual story I'm going to tell took place in 1990, and I remember the date well because it was shortly after my birthday, and being 15 in Florida, I had just gotten my learner's permit, and my dad would let me drive him to and from work just to get some experience on the road, both at day and at night. I was sitting in my usual spot at a table that was set up along the windows, book in hand, feet propped up, and a Mountain Dew on the table along with some snacks. I would generally spend most of the evening that way, reading books, getting up to run the register / stock the cooler at different times. I remember glancing up because something caught my attention that was unusual, and I realized a lady was walking up our parking lot from the direction of the interstate. The gas station was right on I-75. This in itself was really strange, because where we were located, you didn't get many people walking, and definitely not walking from the direction of the interstate. I figured she had broken down somewhere and was coming to use the phone to call for a tow truck or something. I was completely wrong. She came into the store, looked around for a few minutes, and I remember getting just a strange and creepy feeling about her. She walked up to the counter and started telling my dad a story about how she had gotten stranded and needed a ride to the next big town up north from us. Ocala was the town. This is important. My dad lets her know that he's working and there's no way that he can take her. She turns and looks at me, and while she's looking away from him, my dad catches my eye and subtly shakes his head no. I was confused for a second, but then she turns back to my dad and points at me, asking if I can take her. My dad responded back that I'd only had a learner's permit and wouldn't be able to drive her anywhere and then drive back. Normally, I would have done it, even though it was illegal, because I'd done it a few times before already. I didn't argue with my dad, though, since this was completely out of character for him. He was normally chatty with the customers, but for whatever reason, he was almost curt and dismissive of her. Turns out he had a bad vibe about her from the minute he had seen her walking up the drive. Well, she cusses him out for a minute, and he basically tells her to get out of the store. She slammed the door open, and I thought the glass was going to break from how hard she slammed it. Then she stalks out of the store and down the driveway. I keep an eye on her and continue to watch as she makes her way back up to the interstate and then starts up the northbound on-ramp. Almost a year passes and I'm in my bedroom, less than a week before my 16th birthday. I hear my dad yelling from the living room, "Son, get your ass in here and look at this!" I quickly run to the living room and see my dad pointing at the TV and look at the mugshot of the lady up on the screen, and immediately remembered the lady who had been at the store. Turns out I had almost given a car ride to Aileen Wuornos, who was later convicted of being a serial murderer and then later put to death. I still have nightmares about what could have happened. Dude, this one freaks me out a lot. I mean, thank God for those fatherly instincts there, because as an inexperienced young person, you might think that, helping out somebody who looks to be down on their luck would be a good idea. And I feel like, as a society, we live in a society, like, people do have a tendency to trust women more, but this is, like, the most untrustworthy woman on the planet. I mean, she murdered, 6 dudes, and she had some, weird reasons for doing them, but nonetheless, she was a very dangerous woman, and I'm so glad you did not get in a car with her. The blood-curdling scream that woke me up at 3 a.m. It was Christmas time. My wife and I were staying at her childhood home, where her mother now lived all alone. Well, not if you include the cats. The house was on a quiet cul-de-sac in the suburbs. If you're picturing freshly mowed lawns, American flags, and empty sidewalks, you're picturing it right. It's a single-story home with an attached garage out front. The garage has 2 doorways, apart from the electric garage door, of course. One leads to the garden and backyard. This had an old doggy door from their days with dear old Max, rest in peace Max, that they covered with a piece of nailed-in wood. That had always made me slightly uncomfortable before, but I figured it had been that way for years, so what's the worst that could happen? The second door leads into the kitchen, hollow core. It could stop a mouse, but not much else. Definitely not something that wanted in, or someone. We were asleep in my wife's childhood bedroom at the front of the house, 3 a.m. I was in that deep, dark recess of sleep. You know, you're in the diving bell and you're submerged hundreds of meters below the surface in black water, protected from the real world by miles of nothingness. Then I heard it, the scream. "What are you doing?" It was my mother-in-law's voice echoing down the hallway. To me, lost in a sea of sleep, it sounded like a jet engine roaring past my eardrum. I bolted up. What happened next happened in a matter of seconds. But about that scream, even though I was dead asleep, I heard enough of it to sense the urgency behind it. This wasn't an, "oh, you scared me" type of scream. It was different, and I knew it. Not consciously, but my lizard brain, that piece we retained from our primitive ancestors, knew something was wrong. I watch and read a fair amount of true crime, and this scream awakened that horrible fear, the one that says, this really can't be happening to me, can it? Honestly, in that second of the night, it sounded like someone was about to be murdered. You ever wonder if you're a fight or flight type individual? I always have, and I came to know something about myself after this night. I'm a fighter. I leaped out of bed and growled, yes, growled, in the manliest voice I could muster, "I'm gonna kill you, motherfucker!" and took off running. I tore open the bedroom door and ran into the hallway. There at the end, I saw my mother-in-law, nightgown on, look of utter shock on her face, standing still. We make eye contact as I continue toward her. Then she turns her head and looks directly into the kitchen. I hurry past her and round the corner into the kitchen. The hollow core door is obliterated, shards everywhere. I look through the open frame and see the electric garage door is open. I push ahead. As I run into the garage, I hear it, the sound of someone hopping into a running car just out of view. Just as I make it into the driveway, I see a car peeling out from the sidewalk adjacent to the house. But the adrenaline is still pumping, and who am I to say no to adrenaline? So, like an idiot, I run barefoot after the car. I give a good go. But I'm no Michael Johnson, and even he couldn't catch a speeding car. It soon vanishes down the street, and I'm left all alone. The police showed up within 3 minutes, which, I have to say, makes me feel a lot more at ease with my mother-in-law living there. They took our statements. My mother-in-law says she heard a noise, the hollow core door being kicked in, and walked into the kitchen where she encountered the burglar, a small-framed woman. The police theorized that she was working as part of a team. Her job was to squeeze through the doggy door, kick in the hollow core, and open the electric garage door for her accomplice. According to the police, the burglars most likely thought no one was home. Fortunately, my mother-in-law must have caught her off guard and scared her, in addition to my manly growl, of course. But it feels good to know that everyone was safe, and to learn that I guess I've got a little fight in me. And, for the record, we bought the heaviest goddamn wooden door you've ever seen to replace that hollow core. I'd like to see a mouse try and get through that. Okay, this dude is honestly an absolute hero, even if his mother-in-law might have gotten out of this on her own, but genuinely it is really fortunate that these people were just scared off by the presence of anybody in the house and weren't intending to do anything violent to any of the residents. So I'm just happy nothing super bad happened, and I'm very happy they replaced that door. All the red flags were there. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe he was trying to be nice, but every red flag was raised and every alarm inside me was going crazy. This happened a few hours ago, and I'm safe now. I don't think I have anything to worry about. I'm going to another country to see a band I love. I find a cheap Airbnb online and book it. I was supposed to come in late last night, but flight was delayed, train missed, a nightmare trip overall. I was supposed to get to his place after midnight, and he told me that was totally fine. I checked the reviews about him, and all of them said he was a lovely host and really nice. But I noticed that all of these reviews had been written within a few weeks. Red flag number 1. Then I missed the final train and was unable to get to the place, so I told him that I couldn't make it but will be there tomorrow, today, a few hours ago, and he said it was okay. I got to the train station of the city I'm in, and I decided to walk because I didn't have that much cash with me. I walk for about 40 minutes and get to a place that could be called run down at best. I see drug dealers everywhere, you can just tell sometimes. The door, which had the right number on it, was just a white door next to a shop. Red flag 2, 3, and 4. I had never been able to get a hold of the host. I had his number, but it always went to an answering machine and he didn't answer my texts. I walk into the shop and ask if someone lives there, and the guy in his shady shop says, "A few. Who are you looking for?" I tell him my host's name, and he was playing with his phone in a way that I couldn't see anything of what he was doing, and bing, I get a message from my host. He's almost there. I leave the shop and realize that was red flag 5. Half an hour later, a guy comes up in a car with a girl in the front seat and says, "I'm your host. It's the wrong address on the site. Hop in the back and I'll take you there." Red flag 6. I just said, "You know what? Thank you, but I'll find somewhere else," and I walked away. Wow, that could have been absolutely horrible. I am so glad that she didn't get in that car and she trusted her instincts. I mean, never get in a car with a stranger. I know it seems super simple, but like sometimes you can think it's okay because whatever circumstances you're in at the time. But also, just like as far as Airbnbs are concerned, I know that they're like cheaper, you usually get much more space than you would in a hotel room, but the fact of the matter is, somebody that you do not know at all has a key to the place you will be sleeping. Like, that freaks me out. I mean, I don't want to, like, make anybody paranoid, but please just do your research and be extra, extra careful anytime you decide to sleep on somebody else's property, specifically when it's an Airbnb. I know hotels are smaller and they're probably more expensive, but at least you have a latch on that door that will prevent anybody from getting into the place you're sleeping if you don't want them there. If you're going to book an Airbnb, just please, like I said, do your research and also trust your instincts and keep an eye out for red flags like this woman did. But yeah, if you guys have any general safety tips or anything you'd like to share in the comments, please let the fellow people out there know about your advice. I hope you guys are staying safe out there, taking care of yourselves and taking care of one another. I care about you very much. I hope that everything's going well. Skate on to the best of your abilities. Make sure you're drinking more water, and I'll see you very soon.